The Galactic Defense Academy floated in the darkness of space like a massive steel flower. Its rotating sections glinted under the light of three distant suns. Inside the main training hall, cadets from a dozen different species sat in neat rows, their bodies as different from each other as their homeworlds. Commander Valen stood at the front of the room. His insectoid body clicked and shifted as he moved. His multiple eyes scanned the cadets with obvious displeasure. He stopped when he reached the back row where four humans sat together. Jiho sat with perfect posture, his dark eyes focused on the commander. Next to him, Hana drummed her fingers on the desk, clearly bored. Tay leaned back in his chair, balancing it on two legs despite the dirty looks from a nearby Velen cadet. Yuna sketched something in her notebook. Probably another engine modification. "Today," Commander Valen announced, his translator making his chittering voice sound cold and mechanical, "you will participate in your first real flight exercise, not a simulation, real ships." The room erupted in excited chatter. The Velen cadets, tall and thin with pale blue skin, whispered nervously to each other. The Quinn, small beings covered in soft fur, made squeaking sounds of concern. Only the humans seemed purely excited. "Finally," Hana said, loud enough for others to hear. Several alien cadets turned to look at her with what could only be described as fear. Commander Valen's antennae twitched with irritation. "You will be flying in pairs. The exercise is simple. Navigate to Checkpoint Alpha, perform basic tactical maneuvers around the old station there, and return. Nothing dangerous. Nothing complicated." He paused, and his many eyes fixed on the human cadets. "Especially for those of you from higher gravity worlds. You will follow protocol exactly. No deviations, no creative interpretations. Am I clear?" "Yes, Commander," the humans said together, though Tay was grinning. After the briefing, the cadets filed out toward the hangar bay. The humans walked together, talking excitedly. Around them, other cadets gave them a wide space as if they carried some invisible danger. A Velen cadet named Pelor approached them cautiously. His long fingers twisted together nervously. "Is it true," he asked quietly, "that your planet has predators that hunt in packs? And that your oceans contain creatures larger than ships?" Yuna looked up from her datapad and smiled. "Oh yeah, we have sharks, whales, lions, bears, wolves. Pretty cool, right?" Pelor's skin turned a paler shade of blue. He hurried away. "Why do they always do that?" Tay asked, watching the Velen practically run down the corridor. "Maybe we smell bad," Hana suggested with a shrug. Jiho shook his head. "They're from safe worlds, Class 3 or Class 4 planets. Low gravity, stable weather, no large predators. Earth is Class 12. They think we're dangerous." "That's stupid," Tay said. "We're not dangerous. We're just people." In the hangar bay, rows of small training ships waited. They were old corvettes, retrofitted for Academy use. The ships had seen better days with patched hulls and outdated control systems. But to the humans who had been stuck in simulators for 6 months, they were beautiful. "Oh, she's perfect," Yuna said, running her hand along the hull of their assigned ship. "I can work with this." Commander Valen appeared behind them, making several cadets jump. Humans, notably, didn't flinch. "These ships are 30 years old," he said. "They are slow. They are weak. They are only for basic training. You will treat them with respect and fly them carefully. The regulations are in your flight manual. Read them." "We read them already," Jiho said politely. "Read them again," Valen ordered. "I will be monitoring from the command center. Any deviation from the flight plan will result in immediate failure. This is not your primitive world where you can do as you please. This is the Galactic Defense Academy. We have standards." After he left, Hana made a face. "He really doesn't like us." "He's scared," Yuna said, checking the ship's external systems with her datapad. "They all are. They think because we survived on Earth we must be violent or unstable." "Are we violent and unstable?" Tay asked, climbing into the pilot's seat with obvious joy. "Probably a little," Jiho admitted, "but not in the way they think." The pre-flight checks took longer than expected. Yuna insisted on personally inspecting every system, muttering about inadequate maintenance protocols. Tay ran through the piloting controls 3 times, his grin getting wider each time. Hana loaded the weapon systems, even though they were only equipped with training rounds and low-power lasers. Jiho reviewed the flight plan and checked their route on the navigation system. Through the hangar windows, they could see other cadet ships launching. The Velen ship moved with careful, precise movements. The Quinn vessel practically crawled out of the bay. Everything was slow and methodical. "Tower, this is Cadet Ship 7 requesting launch clearance," Jiho spoke into the comm system. "Ship 7, you are cleared for launch," came the response. "Remember, maximum speed is 1/4 thrust. Acceleration should not exceed 1.5 g. Keep all maneuvers smooth and gradual." "Understood, Tower. 1/4 thrust, 1.5 g maximum." Tay's hands moved over the controls. The ship lifted smoothly and glided out of the hangar. Once they were clear of the station, he sighed. 1/4 thrust. This is going to take forever." "Rules are rules," Jiho said, but he didn't sound happy about it either. "The route takes us past the Kelvin debris field," Yuna noted, studying her display. "That's the asteroid cluster from the mining colony that went bad 20 years ago. We're supposed to go around it," Jiho read from the flight plan. "Adds an extra hour to the trip." "Or," Tay said slowly, "we could go through it." "Technically, the plan says reach checkpoint Alpha. It doesn't specify the exact route, just the checkpoints." Hana laughed. "I like how you think." "No," Jiho said firmly. Valen was clear, no deviations. The ship cruised through space at their painfully slow speed. In the distance, checkpoint Alpha appeared on their sensors. The old station was just a skeleton now, stripped of everything valuable and left to orbit alone. "This is so boring," Hana complained. "At this speed, my grandmother could walk faster." "Your grandmother is dead," Yuna pointed out. "Exactly my point." Despite the slow pace and the strict rules, all 4 humans were smiling. After months of being treated like dangerous animals, locked in simulators and watched constantly, they were finally flying. It didn't matter that the ship was old, or the speed was restricted, or the exercise was basic. They were in space, they were flying, and nothing had ever felt more like home. What none of them knew was that their simple training exercise was about to become far more complicated. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, other ships were moving. Ships with weapons that weren't for training. Ships whose crews had never heard of rules or regulations or safety protocols. And those ships were watching. 2 more ships had launched from the Academy hangar shortly after Jiho's team. The first carried Suman, a communications specialist who had scored highest in her class in xenolinguistics. She shared her ship with a nervous Quinn cadet who kept checking the hull integrity every 5 minutes. The second ship held Minho, the youngest human cadet at the Academy, paired with a Velen who had specifically requested to fly with anyone except a human. The request had been denied. Suman listened to the standard comm chatter between ships, monitoring everything out of habit. She noticed her Quinn partner's distress. "The ship is fine," she said gently. "These old corvettes are built tough. They've survived worse than a training flight." "But the regulations say hull stress must be checked every 10 minutes during flight," the Quinn squeaked. "The regulations were written for ships carrying explosive cargo through combat zones," Suman explained. "We're basically taking a walk around the park." The Quinn didn't look convinced but stopped checking quite so often. On the other ship, Minho was running calculations on his datapad while his Velen partner flew with rigid concentration. "Hey, did you know the flight path is actually 23% longer than it needs to be?" Minho said, conversationally. "If we adjusted course by just 15 degrees at marker 4, we'd save 40 minutes. The Velen's skin went pale blue, almost white. "No deviations," the commander said, "no deviations." I know. I'm just saying, mathematically speaking, it's inefficient." "Everything humans do seems inefficient to me," the Velen muttered, too quietly for his translator to pick up. Far beyond the training route, in a region of space marked as empty on Academy charts, a fleet of 12 warships hung motionless. They were Takeshi vessels, angular and brutal in design. The Takeshi were raiders, a species that had turned piracy into a cultural tradition. They respected strength and despised weakness. Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, his scaled skin reflecting the dim red light of the control room. The Takeshi were reptilian, with powerful bodies built for combat. Corvin was old by Takeshi standards, which meant he was exceptionally good at not getting killed. Admiral, his sensor officer reported, we are detecting unusual activity in Sector 7, multiple small vessels on training runs. The Academy, Corvin said dismissively. Let them play their games. We have more important concerns. Sir, the vessels include human crew. That got Corvin's attention. He moved to the sensor display. Humans? The Deathworlders? Yes, Admiral. 6 humans total, spread across 3 vessels. All are listed as cadets, not soldiers. Corvin studied the data with growing interest. The Takeshi had heard stories about humans. Their home world was classified as one of the most dangerous in the known galaxy. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, but they had already earned a reputation. They were strong, fast, and apparently insane by most species standards. But the Takeshi had never actually fought humans. They had raided colonies of Velans, Quins, and dozens of other species. But human settlements were rare, and the few that existed were heavily defended. Not because humans were afraid, but because everyone else was afraid of what might happen if humans were attacked. Cadets, Corvin repeated thoughtfully. Students, not even real warriors yet. Correct, Admiral. What do we know about human training protocols? The sensor officer pulled up a file. Very little, sir. Human military procedures are not well documented in galactic databases. Most of what we have is rumor and speculation. Corvin's eyes narrowed. He had built his career on understanding enemies before fighting them. Here was an opportunity to observe humans in action without the risk of actual combat. If these were just students, they would give him valuable intelligence about human capabilities. Change course, he ordered. Take us closer to their training route. Passive sensors only. I want to watch these Deathworlder cadets. Sir, if they detect us, they won't. They're students on a simple exercise. They'll be focused on their assignment, not on sensor sweeps. And even if they do notice us, what will they do? They're children playing in training ships. The Takeshi fleet adjusted course, moving silently through the void. Their stealth systems were excellent, designed for ambushing prey. They positioned themselves near Checkpoint Alpha, where all the Academy ships would eventually gather. Back on the human ships, everything seemed routine. Jiho's team had reached the halfway point of their route. They were maintaining exactly 1/4 thrust and staying well within all safety parameters. It was incredibly boring. I'm going to die of old age before we get there, Hana complained for the 20th time. Think of it as character building, Jiho suggested. I have enough character. I want speed. Yuna was running diagnostics on every system she could access. These ships could handle so much more than they're being used for. The engines are rated for 12G acceleration. We're barely using 1.5G. It's like buying a racing ship and using it to deliver mail. Academy regulations, Jiho reminded her. Stupid regulations, Tay muttered from the pilot's seat. On Suman's ship, she had started teaching her Quinn partner human idioms to pass the time. So when we say someone is cool, we don't mean their temperature. We mean they're good at something or interesting. But why use a temperature word for social status? I have no idea. Languages are weird. Minho had given up trying to talk to his Velen partner and was instead listening to music through his earpiece while running tactical simulations on his datapad. He was studying historical battles, something he did for fun. His current focus was ancient Earth naval warfare, back when humans fought each other on oceans using ships made of metal and wood. The 6 humans had no idea they were being watched. They had no idea that 12 warships were tracking their every move. They certainly had no idea that Admiral Corvin was recording everything, analyzing their flight patterns and behavior with the intensity of a predator studying prey. They fly well, one of Corvin's officers observed. Precise, disciplined. Too disciplined, Corvin said. These are the feared humans. They follow every rule like frightened younglings. Perhaps the stories are exaggerated, Admiral. Corvin didn't respond. He had survived this long by never underestimating an enemy. The humans were following rules now. But what happened when the rules changed? What happened when Deathworlders felt threatened? He was very interested in finding out. Continue monitoring, he ordered. Let's see what happens when they reach the station and begin their tactical maneuvers. That's when we'll see what they're really capable of. The Takeshi fleet waited in silence, like sharks circling in dark water. And the human cadets flew onward, completely unaware that their simple training exercise was about to become something much more dangerous. Checkpoint Alpha grew larger on their sensors. The old abandoned station waited for them, a skeleton of metal and broken dreams floating in the eternal night. And in that night, predators were watching. Checkpoint Alpha loomed before them, a twisted mass of metal that had once been a thriving station. Now it was just a training obstacle, perfect for practicing approach and evasion maneuvers. All three human ships arrived within minutes of each other, forming a loose formation near the station's outer marker. Cadet Ship 7 to all human vessels, Jiho transmitted. Ready to begin the exercise? Ship 9 ready, Suman responded cheerfully. Ship 12 ready, Minho confirmed. Their alien partners said nothing, still tense from the flight. The Quinn had finally stopped checking the hull integrity, but now gripped his seat with all four hands. The Velen in Minho's ship had his eyes closed, possibly praying to whatever gods his people believed in. Commander Valen's voice crackled over the comm from the distant academy. All cadet ships, you may begin your tactical maneuvers. Remember, this is a learning exercise, slow and steady. No risks. You are to practice basic approach patterns around the station. Stay at least 500 meters from any debris. Maximum speed remains 1/4 thrust. Understood, Command, Jiho replied formally. Valen's voice continued. And cadets from Earth, I am watching your telemetry specifically. Follow the manual exactly. The manual exists for a reason. Yes, sir, all 6 humans said together. The comm went quiet. The 3 human ships floated in space, engines idling. 500 meters from debris, Tay said slowly. That's really far. The manual says most species need that distance for safe reaction time, Yuna explained. Their reflexes are slower than ours. How much slower? About 3 times slower on average. Hana laughed. No wonder they think we're dangerous. We probably look like we're moving in fast forward to them. Focus, Jiho said, though he was smiling. Let's run the approach pattern, by the book. Nice and easy. Tay guided their ship toward the station. He followed the flight path from the manual, making wide, gentle turns. It felt wrong to him, like trying to run in slow motion. Every instinct told him to move faster, to react quicker, to actually use the ship's capabilities. But he followed orders. On the Takeshi flagship, Admiral Corvin watched the humans begin their exercise. This is what we came to see, one of his officers asked. They're flying like students. Wait, Corvin said. Watch carefully. The first indication that something was different came when Tay navigated around a piece of debris. He saw it coming from 1,000 meters away and adjusted course smoothly. To him, it was an easy correction. To the Takeshi, watching on sensors, he had reacted to an obstacle before it should have been visible on his displays. Did you see that? Corvin's tactical officer said. The correction happened 2.3 seconds before the debris appeared on standard sensors. Enhanced sensors? Another officer suggested. Negative. Those ships have standard Academy equipment. The human must have better visual tracking. In Suman's ship, she was practicing communication protocols, sending test signals and checking response times. Her Quinn partner finally relaxed enough to release the seat. See? Suman said encouragingly. We're doing fine, nothing scary. At that moment, Tay decided the manual approach was too boring. Hey Jiho, the manual says we should practice evasive maneuvers around obstacles, right? Yes, gentle evasive maneuvers at quarter thrust. Right, but it doesn't say we can't practice them in the debris field itself, just that we should stay 500 meters from debris during approach. We're done with approach. Now we're on evasion training. Jiho considered this. Technically, Tay was correct. How dense is the debris field? Yuna checked her sensors. Not bad. Largest concentration has pieces every 100 meters or so. Easy navigation. For us, Jiho said, Valen's going to be furious. He said to practice evasion, Tay pointed out. Hard to practice evasion with nothing to evade. Hana grinned. I vote yes. This is the most boring training exercise ever. Let's make it interesting. Jiho thought for exactly 3 seconds. They had been cooped up in simulators for months. They had followed every stupid rule, tolerated every fearful look, and accepted every restriction. This was training. They were supposed to learn, and you couldn't learn anything going this slow. Fine, he said, but smooth, professional, no showing off. When do I ever show off? Tay asked innocently. Every single day of your life. Tay laughed and adjusted course. Ship 7 banked and accelerated slightly, moving into the debris field. He increased speed to half thrust, which was still only half of the quarter thrust he should have been using, but double what Valen had authorized. The change was immediate and obvious on the Takeshi sensors. Admiral, the tactical officer shouted. The human ship just accelerated and entered the debris field. Corvin leaned forward. Show me. On the display, Ship 7 wove through floating chunks of metal and ice. To Tay, it was like driving through light traffic. He had grown up in Seoul, where traffic moved fast and cars were close together. This was actually more room than he was used to. But on the Takeshi sensors, it looked insane. The human ship was moving at speeds that should have resulted in collisions, making course corrections so quickly that the tracking system struggled to follow. Tay flew within 50 meters of debris that protocol said should have 500 meters of clearance. Is his navigation computer malfunctioning? An officer asked. Negative. He's flying manually. Impossible. No organic pilot could process that much data that quickly. But Tay was doing exactly that. His eyes tracked multiple objects simultaneously. His hands moved on the controls with casual precision. And he was humming a song while doing it. This is actually fun, he said over the internal comm. Yuna watched her displays. Structural integrity good, engine performance optimal. We could go faster? Don't push it, Jiho warned, but he was watching Tay's piloting with appreciation. It was good to finally see real flying. Minho, watching from Ship 12, saw what Tay was doing. Oh, that looks way better than our route. Suman, you seeing this? Yeah, Suman replied. Should we follow? Absolutely not, Minho's Velen partner said, speaking for the first time in an hour. That human is going to die and I don't want to be near him when it happens. He's not going to die, Minho said. That's basic evasion. My little sister could fly that pattern. Your sister is a trained pilot? No, she's 12. I mean, she probably could fly it if we let her try. The Velen made a sound that the translator interpreted as despairing prayer to ancestors. On the Takeshi flagship, Admiral Corvin was no longer lounging in his command chair. He stood at the tactical display, studying every move the human ship made. Get me his biometric data. I want to know his stress levels. They tapped into the Academy's monitoring systems. A moment later, the data appeared. Sir, the human pilot's heart rate is 72 beats per minute. During combat flying? Sir, this is his resting heart rate. He's not stressed at all. According to this, he's actually more relaxed now than he was sitting in the hangar. Corvin felt something he rarely experienced. Uncertainty. Humans found this relaxing? This speed? This danger? This incredible display of reflexes and spatial awareness was considered basic training? What about the others in the ship? The data came up. Similar readings across all humans, Admiral. Slightly elevated heart rates consistent with mild exercise. The alien cadets with them show extreme stress responses. Hana had taken over the weapons console and was running diagnostics. Hey, can we do live fire drills? With what? Jiho asked. We have training lasers. Lasers, still targeting practice. I could use the debris as targets. Valen will have a breakdown. Valen's not here. And the manual does say we should practice weapon systems during tactical exercises. Before Jiho could respond, Yuna spoke up. Actually, I need to do an external hull inspection. One of the sensor mounts is showing unusual vibration. I should EVA and check it. Now? Jiho asked. Good time as any. We're moving slow, relatively speaking. It'll take 5 minutes. Slow, Jiho thought. They were moving at speeds that terrified the Takeshi Admiral watching them, and Yuna thought they were going slow enough for a casual spacewalk. He was starting to realize just how different human perception really was. Commander Valen sat in the Academy's control center, watching the telemetry from the cadet ships with growing concern. The human vessels had deviated from the flight plan. Not dramatically, but enough to trigger his monitoring systems. He tried to open a comm channel to recall them, but the communication window had closed. Part of the training exercise was operating under radio silence during the tactical phase. He would have to wait and deal with them when they returned. Humans, he thought with frustration, always pushing boundaries, always testing limits. Didn't they understand that rules existed for safety? What Valen didn't see, because his sensors weren't looking that far out, was the Takeshi fleet. The Academy's security systems were designed to monitor the training area, not to scan deep space for potential threats. Why would they? This was neutral territory. No one attacked Academy vessels. Aboard Ship 7, Yuna had suited up and cycled through the airlock. She drifted outside the hull, tethered by a safety line, checking the sensor mount with practiced efficiency. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Earth was too far away to see, but she imagined she could feel it pulling at her. The gravity of home calling across the void. "Sensor mount is fine," she reported over the comm. "Just some resonance from the engine frequency. I can fix it in 30 seconds. She pulled a small tool from her belt and made the adjustment while floating in hard vacuum next to a ship moving at thousands of kilometers per hour through a debris field. To Yuna, this was routine maintenance. She had done similar work 100 times in training simulations and twice on actual satellites during her Academy entrance tests. On the Takeshi flagship, an officer was staring at his display in disbelief. "Admiral, one of the humans just went outside their ship." "What?" Corvin moved to look. "Show me." The image appeared on screen. A small human figure in a spacesuit worked casually on the exterior of Ship 7 while the vessel continued its high-speed maneuvering through the debris field. "That's insane," the officer whispered. "One wrong move and she'll be crushed by debris or swept away." "Her suit telemetry shows normal vital signs," the sensor operator reported. "She's not even breathing hard." Corvin watched Yuna complete her repair and pull herself back to the airlock with calm, measured movements. She showed no signs of fear or stress. Just another human doing another incomprehensible thing as if it were perfectly normal. "What kind of training produces this?" he asked quietly. No one had an answer. Inside Ship 7, Yuna cycled through the airlock and removed her helmet. "All fixed. We should have better sensor resolution now." "Great," Jiho said. "Wait, better resolution for what?" Yuna smiled and pointed at her display. "For that?" On the screen were 12 large contacts, ships, big ones, military configurations, and they were close, relatively speaking, just outside the debris field. "Oh," Tay said, looking at the sensor data. "We have company." Jiho felt his pulse quicken slightly. "Those aren't Academy ships." "Definitely not," Minho's voice came over the comm. They had linked their communication systems when the radio silence period ended. "I'm reading heavy weapons and military-grade engines. Takeshi design, I think." "The Raiders?" Suman asked. "What are they doing here?" "Watching us, apparently," Yuna said, studying the passive sensor data. "They've been there for at least 20 minutes based on these readings. Just sitting and observing." Jiho considered the situation. 12 warships versus 3 training corvettes with dummy weapons and student crews. The smart move was to run, get back to the Academy, and let someone else handle it. That's what the regulations said to do. But the Takeshi hadn't attacked. They were just watching. And technically, the exercise plan said to complete all tactical maneuvers before returning. They hadn't finished yet. "What do you think?" he asked the others. "I think," Hana said slowly, "that real targets are better than simulated ones. The manual does say we should practice tactical awareness in various scenarios." "The manual doesn't mention enemy warships," Jiho pointed out. "It doesn't specifically exclude them either." Tay laughed. "I like this reasoning. Besides, we're just students doing training exercises. What are they going to do? Shoot at children?" "They might," Suman said, ever the voice of caution. "Then we'll evade," Tay replied confidently. "Which is, coincidentally, Exactly what we're supposed to be practicing. Minho's voice joined in. I'm running probability simulations. If they were going to attack, they would have done it already. They're observing, gathering intelligence. This is a reconnaissance operation. How do you know? Jiho asked. Because that's what I would do. Unknown enemy, first contact situation, superior numbers but no actual combat data. Watch and learn before engaging. Jiho made his decision. All right, we continue the exercise, but we treat them as environmental obstacles. Adjust our maneuvers to account for their presence. Stay sharp. Should we transmit a warning to the Academy? Suman asked. Communications blackout is still in effect for another 30 minutes according to the schedule, Jiho said. We'll report when we're allowed to. What the humans didn't realize was how their casual conversation sounded when intercepted by the Takeshi. The translation systems picked up words like targets, attack, evade, and tactical awareness. When Minho mentioned probability simulations, the Takeshi computers automatically flagged it as combat analysis. Admiral, the communications officer reported, we've intercepted human transmissions. They've detected us. Of course they have, Corvin said. Enhanced sensor resolution. What are they doing? They're continuing their maneuvers, but they've adjusted their flight patterns. They're treating us as additional obstacles in their training exercise. They're what? The officer showed him the data. The human ships had indeed modified their routes, but they hadn't fled or formed defensive positions. Instead, they were running more complex patterns, using the Takeshi fleet positions as reference points for their training scenarios. They're using us for target practice? Another officer asked, outraged. Worse, Corvin said grimly. They're treating us like we're not even a threat. We're just scenery to them. Then, music started playing over an open comm channel. Suman had accidentally activated her external speakers while trying to adjust her ship's communication systems. Her workout playlist blasted into space, aggressive human music with heavy drums and shouting vocals. To the Takeshi, it sounded like a war cry. They're broadcasting battle music, an officer yelled. Corvin listened to the aggressive rhythm. Psychological warfare, trying to intimidate us. Actually, Suman was just embarrassed. Oh no, I'm so sorry everyone. I didn't mean to broadcast that. Let me just... She fumbled with the controls, accidentally increasing the volume before finally shutting it off. In Ship 12, Minho was thinking out loud while running calculations. Okay, so if we needed to disable those ships, the optimal strategy would be to target their sensor arrays first. That would blind them. Then hit the engine clusters. Their formation pattern suggests they rely on coordinated targeting, so breaking their sensor network would reduce combat effectiveness by approximately 67%. Acceptable casualty rate, assuming we had actual weapons, would be, tricky without knowing their shield capacity. His Velen partner was shaking. Why are you calculating how to destroy them? I'm not going to destroy them. I'm just running scenarios. It's what I do, mental exercise. But the Takeshi intercepted every word. Their translation systems picked up disable ships, target sensor arrays, hit engine clusters, and most terrifying of all, acceptable casualty rate. They're planning an attack, the tactical officer shouted. Corvin studied the data. The humans were still running training maneuvers, but they had positioned themselves in a formation that, while looking random, actually provided excellent coverage for a coordinated strike. They probably didn't even realize they were doing it. It was instinct. Then Yuna's voice came over the comm. Hey, I'm prepping the boarding equipment for inspection, part of the post-flight checklist. Boarding equipment? Hana asked. We have boarding equipment? Every ship has it. Magnetic clamps, cutting tools, zero-G combat gear, standard safety equipment in case we need to evacuate or rescue. The Takeshi sensors detected the activation of boarding systems. Admiral, they're preparing to board us. Corvin looked at his fleet, then at the 3 small training ships, then back at his fleet. 12 warships, hundreds of trained warriors, advanced weapons, heavy armor, and 6 human students in training corvettes were apparently planning to attack them. The terrifying thing was, Corvin wasn't certain they couldn't do it. Admiral Corvin called an emergency meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the war room, A dozen Takeshi warriors who had survived countless battles. They looked at the tactical display showing 3 small training ships and tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Let me understand this correctly, Corbin said slowly. We have 12 warships. They have 3 training corvettes. We have experienced warriors. They have students. We have heavy weapons. They have practice lasers. And yet, I am the one who feels outmatched. His weapons officer spoke up. Admiral, their capabilities don't match their equipment. We've watched them perform maneuvers that should be impossible. Their reaction times are 3 times faster than ours. They show no fear responses to situations that would terrify our best pilots. And they're treating this like a game. Perhaps they're insane, the tactical officer suggested. Deathworld psychology. Maybe surviving on such a dangerous planet breaks something in their minds. Or maybe, Corbin said quietly, it makes them into something we can't comprehend. He pulled up a data file on the main screen. I had our intelligence officer compile everything we know about Earth. Listen to this. Gravity 1.4 times galactic standard. Atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species. Weather systems that generate storms with winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. Oceans containing predators the size of our ships. Land predators that hunt in coordinated packs. Geological instability causing earthquakes and volcanoes. And this is what humans consider a nice place to live. The room was silent. Their evolutionary path is combat, Corbin continued. Every single day on that planet is a fight for survival. They developed intelligence not to contemplate philosophy or art, but to hunt more efficiently and avoid being hunted. They are, by definition, the most dangerous organic species in the galaxy because they had to be to survive. But these are cadets, another officer protested. Children. Children who can fly through debris fields we wouldn't dare enter. Children who perform repairs in hard vacuum while their ship is moving at combat speeds. Children who detected our fleet and immediately started running attack simulations. Corvin's tail lashed with agitation. If these are their children, what are their actual warriors like? He looked at each of his officers. I've built my career on knowing when to fight and when to retreat. I know when I'm facing an enemy I can defeat, and when I'm facing one I cannot. And I am telling you now, I do not want to fight humans. Not these students. Not their warriors. Not ever. You're saying we should surrender? The weapons officer asked in disbelief. To training ships? I'm saying we should avoid a confrontation we cannot win. We don't know that we can't win. Corvin pointed at the display. Look at them. They're still running training exercises. They know we're here, they know we're armed, and they don't care. That tells me everything I need to know about human psychology. They are either supremely confident or genuinely insane, and I'm not sure which option is worse. He sat down heavily in his command chair. He thought about his crew, his ships, his long career. He thought about everything he had built and everything he stood to lose. Open a channel, he ordered. All frequencies. I want the humans to hear this. Admiral, are you certain? Open the channel. The communications officer complied. Corvin took a breath and spoke clearly into the transmitter. Human vessels, this is Admiral Corvin of the Takeshi fleet. We surrender. We power down our weapons and request formal negotiations. In Ship 7, there was a moment of stunned silence. Did he just say surrender? Tay asked. I think so, Jiho replied, equally confused. But we haven't done anything. Hana checked her weapons display. Our lasers aren't even powered up. How can they surrender to unpowered training lasers? Maybe it's a trick, Yuna suggested. Minho's voice came over the comm. It's not a trick. Their weapons are powering down. I'm reading massive energy decrease across their entire fleet. They're actually surrendering. Suman, ever the diplomat, spoke carefully. Should we accept? Jiho had no idea what to do. The training manual definitely didn't cover this situation. He was a cadet. He was supposed to practice flying in circles around an old station and then go home. He wasn't supposed to accept surrenders from pirate fleets. He said eloquently. Sure? He activated his transmitter. Admiral Corvin, this is Cadet Jiho of the Galactic Defense Academy. We accept your surrender, I think. I'll need to contact my commander. Of course, Corvin replied. We will wait here. The communication blackout period had just ended, so Jiho immediately opened a channel to the Academy. Command, this is Cadet Ship 7. We have a situation. Commander Valen's voice came through immediately. Cadet Jiho, you are 17 minutes late for your scheduled report. Explain. Sir, we encountered a Takeshi fleet at Checkpoint Alpha. 12 warships. They surrendered to us and are requesting negotiations. There was a long pause. Repeat that, Valen said slowly. 12 Takeshi warships surrendered to our training group, sir. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm dispatching security vessels immediately. Do not engage. Do not provoke. Do not do anything except wait. Am I clear? Yes, sir. It took 2 hours for Academy security to arrive. During that time, the humans and the Takeshi waited in awkward silence. The human cadets used the time to complete their post-flight checklists. The Takeshi used the time to question every decision that had led them to this moment. When Commander Valen arrived with a fleet of security ships and several diplomatic vessels, he looked at the situation with his many eyes and tried to understand. 3 training corvettes, 12 Takeshi warships, all weapons powered down. The diplomatic negotiations were brief. Admiral Corvin explained that he had been conducting reconnaissance and had decided to avoid potential conflict with human forces. He offered compensation for violating neutral space and requested safe passage to leave the sector. The diplomats, confused but professional, accepted the terms. Afterward, Commander Valen called all 6 human cadets to a private communication channel. Explain to me exactly what happened. Jiho told him everything: the training exercises, the detection of the Takeshi fleet, the decision to continue their maneuvers while monitoring the situation, the accidental music broadcast, the routine equipment checks. We didn't do anything aggressive, sir, Jiho insisted. We were just following the training protocols. At what speed? Valen asked. We may have increased to half thrust at one point for the debris field navigation. Half thrust is still twice your authorized speed. Yes, sir, but the manual said to practice evasion, and you can't really practice evasion going that slow. Valen was quiet for a moment. What else did you do that deviated from the authorized plan? Yuna raised her hand hesitantly. I performed an EVA repair while we were moving through the debris field. You what? The sensor mount was vibrating. It only took 5 minutes to fix. You did a spacewalk during combat maneuvering? It wasn't combat, sir. It was just training. Valen felt a headache forming, which was impressive since his species didn't normally get headaches. And the boarding equipment? Standard post-flight checklist, sir, Yuna said. We're supposed to verify all safety equipment after every flight. The commander looked at the 6 humans. They stood at attention, clearly expecting to be punished. They had broken regulations, exceeded authorized speeds, and performed dangerous maneuvers. They had also somehow caused an entire pirate fleet to surrender without firing a shot. The Takeshi admiral asked me a question, Valen said finally. He wanted to know what percentage of your ship's capabilities you were using during your exercises. About 40%, sir, Tay answered. Maybe less. The ships can do way more than we were allowed to do. 40%, Valen repeated. You made a Takeshi fleet surrender using 40% of your training ship's capabilities while running basic student exercises. We didn't mean to make them surrender, sir, Jiho said. We were just practicing. Valen looked at them for a long moment. Then, to their surprise, he laughed. It was a strange sound from his insectoid vocal apparatus, but it was definitely a laugh. I have been teaching for 30 years, he said. I have trained thousands of cadets from hundreds of species, and I have never had students accidentally conquer a pirate fleet during a basic training flight. Are we in trouble, sir? Suman asked quietly. Oh, you're definitely in trouble, Valen assured her. You broke at least 15 regulations. You exceeded authorized speeds. You performed unauthorized maneuvers. The paperwork alone will take me weeks. He paused, and when he spoke again, his tone was different. Less angry, more thoughtful. But you also showed excellent tactical awareness, maintained perfect formation integrity under stress, and demonstrated why humans are classified as Deathworlders. The Academy Board is going to want to review our safety protocols for human cadets. I suspect they'll find them unnecessarily restrictive. Does that mean we passed, sir? Hana asked hopefully. Phelan's antennae twitched with what might have been amusement. Yes, Cadet Hana. You passed. All of you passed. Technically, you passed too well. The 6 humans grinned at each other. However, Valen continued, you will all report for extra training starting next week. If you're going to fly like that, you need to learn to do it properly. No more restrictions. No more treating you like fragile children. You want to fly like Deathworlders? Fine, but you'll do it under proper supervision. Yes, sir, they said together, unable to hide their excitement. As Valen's ship prepared to escort them back to the academy, he watched the human cadets laughing and celebrating in their ships. They still didn't understand what they had done. To them, it was just another training day, and that, Valen realized, was exactly what made humans so dangerous. They performed the impossible and thought it was normal. The story spread quickly through the academy and beyond. The tale of 6 human cadets who accidentally made a pirate fleet surrender during basic training became legendary. Other species treated it as a cautionary tale about human capabilities. Humans treated it as a funny story about a training exercise that went weird. And somewhere in deep space, Admiral Corvin was explaining to his superiors why he had surrendered 12 warships to 3 training corvettes. His explanation was simple and honest. Because they were humans, and I wanted to live. His superiors, after reviewing the sensor data, agreed he had made the right choice.